Appreciate this.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless you for what you're doing.
Well, likewise. Likewise. It's an honor. I tell you what, standing for truth is it's never a dull day and man, God's good and it's fun to see, when people know the truth will set them free and that's
Amen to
nothing like
that.
that. So,
Amen to that. Well, my Siamese cat may be joining us.
okay.
She's decided that that she wants to visit with us here. So
I love it.
if I shut the door on her, she'll yell at me. So
That's funny.
yeah. So I want to greet everybody that's going to join us here. We have with us Micah Beckwith. I want to shift attention for a moment, Micah, because, I don't know if you're following what happened, the Sunday, June 25th, the Lord's Day. Sue Finkham, who's running for mayor in Carmel, she got up on a stage and endorsed this Pride Festival where then drag queens came out before dark and proceeded to, entertain people. They had little children that were there slipping dollar bills to them. And it was the most disgusting display of hypersexualization of families and children, frankly, that I've ever seen. I had some guys, because I was out of town doing some undercover work, and took the photos for me for my newsletter. And because you'd think that the news would pick this up and expose this for what it was. No news would pick this up, but it's in my newsletter. If anybody wants to go to our website under the resource tab, you can find the newsletter, how they're hiding behind children to have these events. But, I don't know what your view is of, politicians endorsing these kind of events and really tossing aside traditional family values. Maybe that's too much for you to get into with where you're running right now, but if you'd have any comment on it.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I'll dive into any issue. I don't really care about, the political fallout. I'm just going to tell you what the truth is and
Yeah,
I don't really worry about the outcome.
Yeah.
I'm just, let truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just have to set it free and it will defend itself. Right. So going back to that event that you were talking about. So Carmel is really the bedrock of this battle between, I would say, just morality, this battle for morality within, at least in Indiana. I see a lot of people from Chicago and California moving into central Indiana, and they're going to places like Carmel or Brownsburg or Fishers and places like that. When Indiana was built, it became a very strong nation or a strong state. It was built on conservative values, and now people are moving in from other parts of the nation, and they're saying, "Oh, Indiana's a great place to raise family. Got good schools. The economy's strong." Well, they're bringing in their politics that are destroying those pillars of our society within our state here, and they think they can have all the blessings of what comes with morality without having the actual morality, right? And so that's what we're fighting against. And so to your point, Vicky, yeah, what we saw in Carmel there at the Pride Fest was just an egregious display of where we're heading as a culture. And then, it's not just the fact that people were doing these drag queen events for kids. I mean, and people will say, well, it wasn't for kids, but no, kids were there. They actually marketed it as family friendly drag queen story hour. I don't know if they call it story hour, but it was a drag queen event marketed for the family. And now you're being vilified if you speak out against that. So not only are people who want to say, hey, we should uphold a decency and standard of morality in our culture, not only are those people speaking out, but they're being vilified from the side that wants to engage in this nonsense. And then you have Republican politicians who are supporting, endorsing, and sponsoring these events. So you had Sue Finkham, who's the mayoral candidate for the Republicans, but you also had Matthew Snyder and Adam Hassan, who they're city councilors. They took money and they sponsored the Pride Festival where this was going. They're Republicans, supposedly.
Yes.
And that's the problem I have is I get the Democrats are going to push this stuff all day long. The Democrats have always been the party of immorality. The Democrats were the party of slavery. They wanted slavery to maintain its status within America. If it wasn't for the first Republican president of Abraham Lincoln coming in with the party of freedom and liberty, we would still probably be
That's
fighting,
right.
you know, the fact that slavery is immoral, but we had Republican principles set people free, but they were based on God's values and God's idea of what's right and wrong. And now you have Republicans who have now seeped over to accepting Democrat values of immorality, like these drag shows for children. And that's the problem that I see within the Republican Party, not only in Indiana, but also around the nation, where we don't really know what defines us as Republicans anymore, because it's just, well, whatever anyone wants to believe is right. We just have to go along, get along. Let's be tolerant of everything. And I always say, again, where's the line?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, what's next?
And what is next? I mean, if they are willing, if Sue Finkham, Matthew Snyder, Adam Anson are willing to toss aside the moral fiber of the Republican platform, what else would they do when they succumb to that kind of pressure from the Twitter feeds?
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Sue because, you know, I'm willing to try to have that conversation to say, are you willing to issue a public apology? Because maybe after she saw the pictures, she's willing to say, I erred, but she isn't willing to even do that, you know? So this is supposedly a Christian woman who's not willing in self-reflection to ponder what she's done and say, my bad. Yeah. So, okay, so fine. You know what? She's not the right candidate, but I just met with this guy today who's going to be the write-in candidate for Carmel. Thank God. His name's Darren Johnson, you know, and, you know, I don't know if you know him, but he is fabulous. This man is led by his faith. He literally quit his job. He was an engineer, then went into stock and real estate investing. He quit his job to run this race. You know, he initially thought, you know, that Fred Glenn was going to be the guy. And when Fred did not win, he said, somebody has to step up for conservative values and conservative fiscal values too, by the way. But when I asked him about the Pride Festival, he said, there is no way I would be there. So I'm saying, okay, he's strong fiscally conservative. There's no way he'd be there. He's led by his faith. I don't know what your thoughts on this are.
Yeah, no, I know Darren really well. Darren actually goes to my church.
Okay.
And so, right. Yeah. So I've had these conversations with Darren for a while, and Darren was one of the people that couldn't get on a Republican ballot because he just didn't have a voting record in the primary. He would vote in the general, but he didn't normally vote in the primary. He's really a lot more of a Republican than he is anything else. But because he couldn't get on the ballot, he said, well, I'm going to consider running as an independent. And okay. So that's what he's doing. He tried to get on the ballot as an independent so he wouldn't have to be a write-in, but he came up, he got 100, or I think he needed 812 signatures, I think is what he was telling me, to be placed on the ballot. I think he got 700 and he got almost 900, but they threw out about 100 signatures. So he was just upper 700s. So but to get 770, however many signatures he got was also a big feat. So he's been out there hitting the ground, knocking on doors, talking to voters within Carmel. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to win this mayoral race, but he could be a spoiler for Sue Finkham, because to your point, there are people in Carmel all over the place that have said, we cannot allow a Republican who wants to endorse drag shows for kids to become the mayor of our city. And yes, Miles Nelson, like he endorsed it. He supports that kind of stuff without a doubt, but he's the Democrat. We all know Democrats do that. Like nobody has to guess the Democrats are the party against parents' values. They're the party of abortion. They want to destroy life. They're the party of sexual immorality, like drag shows for kids. Like at least he's being honest when he said, like, yeah, right. Yeah. So I think that's where Darren could really come in and say, hey, I'm going to give you an option as a write-in, he could siphon quite a few votes away from Sue. Unfortunately, I wish Carmel just had a Republican who adhered to social and conservative values. I think Sue wants to play the fiscal card, like I'm a fiscal conservative, which I don't even know how you do that in Carmel. Like Carmel's really not been the beacon of fiscal conservatism for many years under Jim Brainerd's leadership and the council's leadership.
That's right.
That's going to be a hard one to sell to conservatives like myself who say, okay, that's really not anything to brag about. And now you're endorsing all this other stuff over here, this lifestyle crap that is being shoved down our throats left and right everywhere we go, whether it's the schools or the public libraries or corporate America. Why should we vote for you? And I think that's where Darren's message is resonating with a lot of people in Carmel.
Yeah, very, very well said, as usual, Micah. Thank you. Yeah. Any last words?
Well, I think to your point, Vicki, it takes all of us. We got to step up, and if we want to see liberty and freedom and a decent and moral society based on what God says is right and wrong, then we all need to step up and do our job. We can't be the silent majority anymore. We've heard that term for many years. Well, there's a silent majority. That to me is a really it's a really offensive term. We shouldn't be silent at all. Why in the world is the majority afraid to speak? And if you don't speak, then you will never declare truth. And if truth isn't declared, then you won't have freedom. You have to open your mouth. You have to get out there. You have to speak truth in order for people to be set free. And so you don't have the luxury of sitting back and being silent anymore. You got to get out. You have to steward this nation, or else we won't have the same freedoms and liberties that our children and children's children have had, and or that our parents had given us. Our children and children's children will not have those same freedoms and liberties that we've been blessed with. So all that to say, I would love to chat with anyone who has any questions about my race for lieutenant governor. You can go to micahbeckwith.com to learn more. And ultimately, it takes every single person to get off the bench and to get into the game if we want to steward this amazing nation, this beautiful republic that God has given us.
Well, folks, here you've heard it. This is our hope right here. And if you want to restore sanity to this state, if you want to restore liberty and accountability, this is your man. Thank you very much, Micah. I am so grateful to you.
Thank you, Vicki. It's been an honor to be with you today. Keep up the great work. I appreciate your voice.
All right. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.